Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners and poisoning cases from across the centuries and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 14.
14, yes. That's very exciting.
14. I didn't have to think of the number there while I was talking.
Well done.
It was like, 14. Oh, God. How are you, Nick?
Yeah, right. General bumbling along. I don't know, is it just me, or things are starting to feel like they're getting back to a bit more going somewhere?
That says nothing. That's about as clear as Boris Johnson's advice to the public there. I think we're vaguely getting to something happening, maybe normal, what? Yeah. Good.
So that's how I feel at the moment.
Very hot today as well. I'm
toasty.
dying because I have to record this in a small...
Not that hot.
I have to record this in a small room in my house, and I can't open the window because then there'll be bird sound. And my husband is downstairs rehearsing a play. At least that's what he says he's doing. He could just be lip syncing to his favourite song, and I walked in and he went, "I'm rehearsing a play." But so yeah, I've got to close all the doors so there's no sound bleed of Shakespeare into this. So I'm hot. I'm sweaty.
Oh no, I have to go into my smallest studio room to record this.
Yes.
Some of us are sitting at their dining table because they've got nowhere else to do it.
Well, you've only yourself to blame, Nick.
This is true. I just haven't worked hard enough in my life.
I pay my bills, pay my telephone bills. No gratuitous nudity this week?
Was there last week?
Well, normally there's no poisonings each week, so I thought I'd mix it up.
Yes, there's no point. Oh yeah, I was going to say. I thought, you threw me on that one. Not that I've noticed. I must admit. But then I haven't been peeping in through people's windows and such like.
Well, there's always next week, but and assuming no poisonings this week.
No, none of those either.
None of those.
No naked people or poisoning.
No naked poisonings. God damn it! Things are getting back to normal.
It's been a very dull week.
But we're here. We're ready. It's the highlight of the week for everyone. The new episode of Poisoner's Cabinet coming out. So, Nick, are you ready to drink cocktails and talk about poison?
Yeah, go on then.
Or drink poison and talk about cocktails?
Nope.
Fine. Good.
No, I've already got a gin and tonic on the go, so I'm way ahead of the drinking cocktails.
I know. I have a very sad glass of water. I can't wait to get the cocktail. This is a rosé in the garden day, isn't it? It's a chilled...
It truly is. Nope, none of that.
You're gonna need to drink soon as well, and it's great because it's your story this week, Nick. So I can drink as much as I like. Hey.
Does it stop you if it's your story drinking as much as you like? No, I didn't think so.
I just lie. So it is your story this Nick. This Nick week. It is Nick week.
It
is your story this week, Nick.
Yes.
And very excited. I've no idea what's coming, but we do know that we have our secret ingredient to use in the cocktail that is inspired by this week's story. So let's start with our drinks. Let's get on that because Sinead's gasping. Our secret ingredient this week, Nick, was
honey.
Honey.
Yes.
Now a proper ingredient as well.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed.
It's a nice, you're showing me up from all of my glove and feathers.
You know, it came so close to me having to do a random abstract ingredient. And I was thinking, I can't. The amount of shit I've given Sinead over this for the past couple of weeks, I can't do it. And then it was like, there's some honey! So it was very exciting.
Honey in a cocktail. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Natural
and it's actually
sweetness.
It's a cocktail that I have come across. I've never made before, but I've come across it before, and always thinking, "Ooh, I need to make that. That sounds really nice."
When you say you've come across it before, is in you've had it or you found it in the street?
No, I've seen it in books and things. I've read about it. And it's come up on because I watch a lot of cocktail YouTube tutorials and stuff like that, and it's one that I've seen people make and say it's very nice, and I've seen it on menus in cocktail places and stuff, but I've never had it myself.
Yes, I think honey's a great ingredient. Oh, I'm excited about this. I do like that. Sorry, I laugh so much because the idea of you saying I've read of it in books and heard it in song and tale.
I read it in a story. It was in Astoria once. Good story. Okay,
so honey, secret ingredient. What is the cocktail we'll be making this week?
It's called a bee's knees.
Adorable.
Knees. Good name.
Ooh.
Good name. Looking forward to this one.
Bee's knees. So we know there's honey in it.
Yep.
And then some other stuff that you have devised. Well, actually, it was a classic cocktail, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No interpretation or devising required. It's straight out of Difford's.
Nick has sent me the ingredients. We're going to go away to our isolation kitchens and shake up a storm. We will see you in a minute.
See you in a bit.
And we're back.
Hello.
Bee's Knees, a honey-hued cocktail we have in front of us.
It's a lovely, lovely colour.
It's a very nice colour.
So I just hope it tastes as good.
Well, we hope so. It kills me every time I bring this cocktail back to recording not to take a tiny, tiny sip beforehand.
Yeah,
but I don't.
Nope.
I don't. So talk us through the ingredients.
So obviously honey. We have honey. Either a honey syrup, if you can be asked to make it, or there is a method to just using honey in it. Then gin, which is your main spirit, lemon juice, and a drop of orange. Now, I think the orange juice is quite a modern addition.
Yeah.
But from what I read, it seems to enhance it. I've not tried it without, but there seems to be the recommendation is to use the little bit of orange juice.
Delicious, and I've done freshly squeezed orange juice because I just bought a bunch of orange juice.
Fancy?
Well, it just tastes nicer, and it did say I had oranges. It used to have oranges in the house. I never eat oranges. Now I have some. Now it's nice.
Yeah, well, I had to use orange squash. So
no, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Oh God. I was like, throw it away, Nick. It does actually sound like something you would have with a cold.
I was thinking that it does sound quite medicinal.
Yes, honey and lemon.
Honey and lemon.
And gin, obviously. Gin cures all ills. But let's dive in and give it a taste.
Give it a go.
Bee's Knees. Cheers.
Aye, that's very pleasant.
Ooh, that is nice.
Nice.
That is lovely.
Really nice. It's really clean and refreshing.
It really is. Yeah. I was thinking with the honey syrup, again, when we've had syrups and sugar syrups, I don't always use them, that it's going to be overly sweet.
I thought it might be a bit cloying or something like that, or a bit heavy, but it's really
claggy
not.
Kind of feel. But with the lemon, with the gin, complements it beautifully. Oh, it's really smooth.
It's
really smooth. Oh, this going to go down well. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Second sip.
This is going in the book of ones to remake. Well, I'm going to have to make myself a bottle of honey syrup now rather than just rely on.
Bee's Knees, aptly named. Wonderful cocktail.
Knees, yeah.
Refreshing, cooling.
Good cocktail.
So we have our cocktails firmly in hand. Nick,
yes.
It's time for your story. You're going to take us on a journey?
Oh, I should hope so.
Whoa. I'm ready for it. Let us fly like a bee.
Yeah. So I think it's quite an exciting story.
You would hope so.
Well, it's one that I had not heard of before. It's one that I had not heard of, and just my random Googling of murderers. I mean, other people may go, yeah, obviously, I know that one. Today, we are going to tell you the tale of Mary Bateman.
Mary Bateman?
Mary Bateman, the Yorkshire Witch.
Whoa. Okay. Oh, witches. Yes.
Yep.
So anyone who's heard our podcast to date knows anything witchy.
Witchy, we love it.
We are here for it. We are here for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, she really does give witches a bad name. She is a thoroughly horrible woman.
Oh, tell us why. Why? Who is she, and why, and where, and how?
That was unnecessary.
Or was it very necessary, Nick? Let the people decide.
No. So, she was born in Yorkshire in 1768. Her father was a farmer, and although not wealthy, he and his wife, they were well respected and liked in the area. They lived in a village, had a little farm. Perfectly pleasant people, working class, salt of the earth type folk.
Idyllic, lovely. Yorkshire, very beautiful county, by the way. Anyone who's never visited Yorkshire, I mean, Kent is better, obviously, but Yorkshire.
But even at a young age, Mary was troublesome, and she quickly developed a bit of a reputation in the local surroundings as a thief and a liar.
You don't want those two together.
No, not at all. It's not a good combination.
No.
Her parents tried to stop her and get her to change her ways, but Mary found it far easier just to take what she wanted, and rather than bother asking for it and risk being told no.
How old?
Well, she was about 11, 12 years old at this point. So, which is for a child of 11, 12 years old, thinking, is that desperately unusual?
Pushing the boundaries of society, starting to learn about that. Yes, and a psychological kind of development. See,
I was thinking, 11, 12 years old, does that happen with children anyway? Are they trying to push those boundaries and things? I don't know. I don't have kids. But then I was also thinking that this is a time where, at 11 and 12 years old, she would have been working.
Of course, yes.
I don't think we can give modern equivalents of kids today to kids back then, because she would have grown up so much faster.
This is a very good point, yes. We can't think, she was just out with moonbeams and penny whistles. No, she was probably been working for 5 years.
Exactly, yes. But, yes, so she was getting this reputation, a bit of a thief. Her parents were really having enough of it. She was starting to get a reputation, and it was very badly on them. Until this point, they'd been held in really good standing. But now their daughter was this ne'er-do-well, who was causing chaos and just being a complete tearaway. So she was sent away. In 1780, she was sent to work as a domestic servant, which again I don't think is something particularly uncommon for a sort of working class girl to go and become a scullery maid.
It's quite a
somewhere.
good career change for a lot of people. Getting into service was quite coveted at different points, because then you could work your way up in the ranks, and you would have room and board and benefit from a much nicer environment than you'd had down on the farm.
I think that was what the hope, that sort of employment and more of a routine and things would help her mend her ways. But it was unfortunately not to be. Quite major sort of kleptomania had taken over Mary. He just loved to nick stuff. But unfortunately, to go alongside with that, she didn't seem very good at it, because she kept getting caught.
So, right. Was she just standing in front of people?
Potentially.
Taking their watches while they were standing there, just like putting them in her pockets, making eye contact the entire time.
So I don't think she was that good. Her thievery cost her job after job after job. And she was fired from one position, and she went to the next village along, and she got another position. Soon enough, she was nicking stuff from there, and she got found out, and she was fired. And it went on and on and on for a good few years.
Sticky fingers. Or put big house.
Or put big house.
Are we going to have some wonderful Yorkshire accents?
We're
all the way
really not, no, because that would be terrible. And people will hunt me down.
As if you were a witch,
as if
ironically.
As if I was a witch. I know there has been a clamouring for my accents, because my French ones were so good.
We have had literally one letter
asking me to redo my French accent.
No, we do have quite good reactions to your accents.
So with her local options getting more and more limited, in 1787... Mary moves to Leeds. So a huge metropolis of manufacturing, thousands of people coming and going every day. Here, no one knew who she was. She had no reputation at all. She was just one of many, many countryside young women who were coming in to try and make a better life. Through a friend of her mother's, she found work as a seamstress. But unfortunately, she didn't turn out to be that great at the sewing either. She was passable, but not brilliant. So she was only allowed to work on the clothing for sort of the lower classes.
Right.
So
how bad do you have to be to just
I
have someone downgrade you?
Her stitching wasn't particularly neat. Because everything was done by hand, so her stitching was quite sloppy. So it would, on a big fancy ball gown or something like that, it would probably have been quite obvious. And you're spending a lot of money on fabrics and things. You don't want someone to fuck it up.
Fair enough.
So she was left to work on sort of the servants' clothes and maids' clothes and things like that. And unfortunately, it didn't bring in a lot of money. But what it did do is it introduced her to a lot of the sort of servant girls and maids who were to become her future clients. Drama. At this time, so we're talking sort of late 1700s, so late 18th century, there was a bit of a precedent of women who had come in from the countryside who set themselves up as soothsayers and fortune tellers. They sort of supposedly had a connection with the ancient rural folk traditions of the countryside that sort of gave them their abilities and their skills. And these had all been forgotten about in the cities and things. The cities were industrial and modern, and they had no time for such frivolities and things, for trees and that sort of stuff now. But these women who came in for the countryside, they still had that connection to the sort of more natural world. And this appealed to Mary greatly. I mean, she was from the countryside. She could appear mysterious. She could put on a funny voice. And she had no issue lying to people's faces.
And she could make her own cloak, which she could waft.
She could make her own costume, absolutely. And it wasn't that good, so he looked a bit like, oh, I've been in the hedge, sort of thing. So
she's a shit witch.
It's perfect for me. So she set up a little sideline. So whilst continuing to work as a seamstress, she told fortunes. She brewed love potions, and she removed sort of evil curses from gullible servants and sometimes even their employers, who were, some of them, a bit more susceptible to the old traditions than they might let on in polite society. And she was happy to take coin from anyone, really. Anyone who wanted their fortune told, she was good for it.
Was this around the time there was a bit of a chic? I mean, it continued for quite a while, but there was always a little bit of a chic in high society for mediums and seances in the big houses.
We're 18th century now, so I think that became much more sort of 19th century, that sort of more occultism
Yes.
type thing really kicked off. But yeah, we're a bit early for that phenomenon.
So still whisperings in the background rather than a public thing.
Exactly. At the moment, we're still very much sort of folky traditions, wise woman living in a ditch sort of thing.
But also some of the women of high society as well, they were relying on doctors a lot of the time, a lot of whom were quacks, even the people in the city.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yes.
if they had ailments, if they had problems, particularly around pregnancy or trying to have a baby or protect their children, they were known to secretly go off to wise women and say, please give me this little treatment. And yeah, they were being sold down the river anyway, but they were relying on anything because no one knew what they were doing, apparently, at the time.
And that is exactly what we will come on to shortly. So in 1792, when she was 24 years old, she was still working as a seamstress and carrying on with her soothsaying on the side. She meets a man called John Bateman, and after only 3 weeks, they're married.
Lovely.
Which is quite a speedy courtship.
In today's the time,
I think even then, three weeks.
I don't know.
To my mind, it seems very speedy. And either John didn't mind his new wife's sideline, or he just wasn't aware of it. It's probably in 3 weeks you can't get to know someone that well, I suppose. So perhaps he was completely unaware of...
I think there's a lot of catfishes and Tinder people out there who will disagree with you and just go, I know them, I've had one date with them, and yet I know their soul, and I know we're supposed to be together.
That could well be it. But he wasn't to remain in the dark for too much longer. Yeah, so they married and they moved into a little house. Really, well, I'm trying to think what it's called. It's not like a
hovel.
But so I think a hovel might be a bit too harsh for it. But I think it would have been a room, like people lived in one room with a shared sort of outhouse and things like that. So anyway, they moved into this
studio flat,
a nice bedsit, and they had a neighbour who earned his living and supported his family with his horse and cart deliveries and such like up and down the street. Obviously not a wealthy man. One day he unfortunately dies. No suspicion of any foul play or anything, but he does pass away, leaving a widow and 4 children.
Oh dear.
Mary persuades the widow that the eldest child, who she was a stepmother to, was going to sell all of his father's property and use the money for himself, was going to leg it with all this money. And to prevent this, Mary persuades the widow that she should sell everything first.
Oh.
Take her fair share of the inheritance or the proceeds, and then go back to her parents, leave the city of Leeds, but give Mary the children's share, and then she will distribute it amongst the remaining four children. I mean, the widow takes Mary's advice and think, well, thank you very much, you've really saved me there. I could be absolutely screwed if the eldest son had done a bunk with all this money. I would be fucked. So she takes the advice.
So she's the stepmother to the children.
She's a stepmother to the children.
Fair enough.
Yes.
She's not the mother.
She's the stepmother, and thinking that, well, probably all the father's possessions are going to go to his eldest son. The widow liquidates everything, sells everything, takes what she thinks is a fair share for herself, and leaves the rest with Mary to be distributed amongst the children.
Very trusting woman.
Very trusting woman. Very foolish woman. Mary takes the lot. The 4 kids end up in the workhouse.
Oh.
The 4 kids don't see a penny of this money. Mary's
Shocking.
pocketed the lot. So it's slightly to tell you what sort of person she actually is.
I mean, it's not surprising that's the way it was going to go. I don't think anything that was building up to this, she was going to suddenly change her heart and go, I shall take on these 4 children and be a mother. That is what's been missing from my life.
Yeah, I mean, there's another story that tells that after there was a large factory fire in Leeds, that one of the walls collapses and a number of workers are unfortunately killed. Mary goes round door to door asking for donations to help these poor bereaved families. And people give her, they do not necessarily money, but clothing or food or whatever they can spare to, in fact, help these poor bereaved family. Of course, Mary pockets the lot herself.
No! Oh, she evil!
With these donations.
Oh, she didn't have any ID or anything. That's why you always ask the people who come to the door, you need ID.
I mean, there are loads of these stories. I've got one more I have to tell you because it's just brilliant, but there are so many. So they say in another one of her scams, she witnesses a relatively posh chap at the butcher's. And this chap is buying a leg of mutton for his tea, one would assume. And he says to the butcher, fetch me a boy and send the boy with the mutton to my home. Sort of thing. I'm not carrying the mutton back to my house, so get a boy to send, and then the cook will prepare it for me.
Slight interlude. That needs to happen more often these days. I want boys to bring my meat to my house. Can we just do that now, actually, after lockdown? The first time I go into a butcher's and order loads of meat, and then just go, have the boy bring it to my home.
Oh, yes.
Like, no, we don't do that. No, fetch a boy and out in the street. A sixpence for him. There we are.
So, I mean, Mary hears this conversation going on. The butcher says, yeah, absolutely, sir. And quick as a flash, she got, haha, I have a plan. She races ahead. She knows the route that this boy is going to take, and gets ahead of a bridge that she knows he's got to cross.
Okay.
When she sees him coming across the bridge with this mutton and lamb, she starts running towards him. Where have you been? What are you doing? Where's that mutton? Pretending to be a servant, one of the maids of this gentleman, and really gives the boy what for, saying, you're so bloody late, where's this mutton? Clips him round the ear, sends him on his way, takes this mutton and goes, oh, I'm going to take it from here, I'll take it home. Boy goes on his way, off she goes, a nice leg of mutton, takes it home.
Mary is a criminal genius.
It's a genius
This is
plan.
amazing. These are things that are scarily stuff that you could go, we could do that now. We could just pretend to be a servant and for a Harrods delivery. We could do that. When the guy comes and delivers the wine at your house, I could just run around the corner going, where have you been? Nick needs his wine. I shall take it all.
I mean, it's quite ingenious. And say there's a list of these scams that she pulls on people. And yeah, they really are quite ingenious. But within 2 months of the marriage, things are getting really quite fraught in Leeds. People are starting to cotton on that Mary, she's perhaps not so nice. She's getting a bit of a reputation. So
no one's getting their mutton.
No one's getting their mutton, absolutely. John and Mary flee Leeds. They run from the city. They don't go far. They're still in Yorkshire. They're in some of the villages surrounding. I mean, obviously, news doesn't travel far in this day and age, so you don't have to go far to become completely unknown. But wherever they go, Mary can't help but set herself up as this fortune teller, this provider of charms and potions, and this fraudster. And each time they are forced to flee anew as her gullible clients become suspicious, or she runs out of people to fleece. Finally, John comes to see who the woman is that he's married, and to escape, he joins the army. So he goes, I can't be dealing with this anymore. She's an absolute nutter. I'm going to join the army.
Did he just join the army, or was this just? Are we just drawing conclusions here?
No. He joined the army. He joined the local militia.
I'd rather die on the battlefield.
Yeah, that's what the books say.
Maybe that's what he says at his enlistment. It's actually written on his form.
Yes,
he needs
crazy,
to get away
crazy
from
wife.
His crazy witch wife.
She's a witch. I say now this is a part of this tale that I'm struggling to sort of get my head straight around this. I mean, during Mary's many years of sort of pretend mediumship and witchly skills, she's built up this really quite a reputation and earned herself the name the Yorkshire Witch. And people sought her out. But what I don't really understand is that if she was having to move so frequently, she can't have been that good at it. And if so, where this reputation sort of comes from.
It's a good point.
How does that work?
I mean, maybe we can talk about this more at the end, but you can twist anything in those days. There's no way of...
Absolutely.
Obviously there's no Google, but, newspaper reports or anything like that, everything's word of mouth. And particularly if you're into mediumship, then you can twist what you hear. And people who are inclined to believe that, if you're so inclined to find someone who is practicing the old ways and paganism and that is a little bit mystical, you're going to believe what you want to believe.
This is one of the things that I came up with, that is that if you want to believe this stuff, you can forgive anything.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a reason why that prophecy didn't come true, or that charm didn't work. I said it in the wrong way, or the moon was in the wrong position or something. There's always a reason why this stuff doesn't work, and when it does work, it's amazing.
When people discredit you, or if there are rumours, she had to run, she was accused of theft, or she did this or did that, that can be twisted. No, she was probably just trying to survive, and you're persecuting her because she's a witch. We're not too far away from the actual witch trials. These things have a way of following them around. If you have a kind of a mystical title, then people are going to seek you out. They're not going to look too deeply into whether or not you're a fraudster.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the 1790s, Mary starts to claim that she is the agent of the legendary Mrs. Moore. Mrs. Moore is the seventh child of a seventh child, and a powerful, powerful mystic, and capable of, I think the technical term they say is screwing down, which I knew you were going to laugh at, which is supernaturally binding. Someone who's trying to do you harm is supernaturally sort of stopping them from hurting.
It's not having sex with someone below your social status.
It's really not. I like that. I hadn't thought of that particular interpretation.
Yeah, if you really have a bad night out and you pick up someone, oh God, I really screwed down on that one.
Not heard that before.
And now you do. Now it's a thing.
Yeah. So Mrs. Moore had this reputation, so whether it was a philandering husband or a really determined creditor, Mrs. Moore, not for an insubstantial fee, could ensure that you were never bothered again. And Mary claimed to be the agent of this woman. So people would go to her, go to Mary, tell her what the problem was. She would then liaise with Mrs. Moore, and then Mary would then recant Mrs. Moore's suggestion or how it was going to be resolved, and perform whatever actions needed to be done. And she carried this on for a couple of years. Mrs. Moore earned herself quite the reputation. Mrs. Moore never existed. It was
Shocking.
a complete work of fiction.
Of course she didn't.
Yeah, Mrs. Moore never existed.
I mean, probably I'd believe it.
Mrs. Moore ended up being a bit too much for Mary to handle. She had grown such a reputation that it was becoming really a hassle to deal with. So one day Mrs. Moore just vanishes into the ether. She's gone. But Mary wasn't left without supernatural assistance for too long, and soon Miss Blythe comes along. Dear old Miss Blythe, a psychic who could read the stars. I mean, if anything, Miss Blythe was more popular. She was perhaps a bit more approachable than Mrs. Moore. Probably her fees were a bit more reasonable.
Fair enough.
And people came to ask Miss Blythe, through Mary, what their futures hold.
Through the stars.
Yeah, pretty much that. And Miss Blythe happily provided predictions and charms and all manner of magic potions for her doting and desperate clients. I mean, it was a lucrative business for Mary, but it wasn't enough. She wanted more. As people always do, when they get a little bit of power, a little bit of money, they want more. In 1803, Mary befriends 3 women from the Kitchen family who run a drapery shop. Now, no doubt her previous experience as a seamstress sort of gets her in with the family, and of course she tells them their fortunes, passed along with a fee, of course, from Miss Blythe. But then one woman falls ill. Mary is first on the scene to help nurse her back with her magic powders that have been provided by Miss Blythe. Soon all 3 women are dead. They are serious magic powders.
Big magic powders.
Mary blames the death on cholera.
Of course.
And locals generally fearful of the disease, and also probably slightly fearful of Mary's reputation as well. As a terrifying witch, she has Miss Blythe on her side who can see the future, and she's got this reputation that is probably people keep their mouth shut. When the creditors investigating the Kitchen estate sort of turn up, they find the house and the shop stripped bare.
Ugh.
Everything gone. Even the account books taken. And Mary, nowhere to be seen. 3 murders. She's got away with it. She's scarpered.
So dare I ask, what was in the magical powder?
We don't know what was in the magic powders. To be honest, I'm assuming it's going to be an arsenic-related thing. Arsenic trioxide, as we've discovered, is a white powder, easily soluble in food and drinks and things. So it's going to be the perfect thing to put in someone's soup or gruel if they're being nursed back to health. We don't know, but I'd be very surprised if arsenic wasn't a major component.
It would be nice to think, well, not nice to think, but you can imagine if she's doing this witchy way that it's herbs and it's a touch of hemlock and belladonna in there and everything. It's probably just arsenic.
It's probably, next door there's a chemist going at that. Or there's some rat poison on the shelf in the kitchen. I mean, she seeks out the ill, the anxious and desperate and offers them magical answers to their problems. But just when it looks like she's picked everyone clean in her vicinity and there's no one left she could take advantage of, she starts dabbling in really apocalyptic prophecy.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, there's a legend that you may have heard. Once in a generation there's born a being who can foretell the end of the world.
Yes.
And in 1805 it was the Prophet Hen of Leeds.
What?
I just made all that up, apart from the Prophet Hen of Leeds. I just thought I'd give it a dramatic entrance. What? And also, that beginning bit was a line from Buffy. So, come on, you should have got that.
I didn't. I was listening. I'm going, okay. Well, no, I haven't heard this, but I don't want to sound stupid. But okay, it sounds kind of familiar.
But the Prophet Hen of Leeds.
The Prophet Hen. Is it an actual hen?
It's an actual hen.
Yes! Yes!
It's an actual hen. And I can't believe you've not heard of the Prophet Hen of Leeds.
I can't believe I haven't either. I mean, I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed. The Prophet Hen. Oh my God. Yes.
Biblical hen who is laying eggs inscribed with "Christ is coming" written on the eggs. It was the end of days.
It's not. I mean, it's not. It's not doing that. Is anyone taking these eggs and reading them going, "Christ is coming"? Smash! Oh yeah, I've dropped it now, but it definitely said that. To the church.
People flocked to Mary. I mean, aware, for a reasonable penny,
of course,
you could be spared the end of times.
How? What?
By her superb, magical, mysterious ways.
Would you pet the hen or something?
I don't know. She knew the end was coming. Only she could protect you from the monsters and the end of time. But it'll cost you a penny.
A penny? Well, a penny's a lot of money back then.
Well, yeah, not that much money.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so you've come to see the magical hen. The magical hen has said... has said the end of the world is coming.
The magical hen is laying eggs, saying Christ is coming.
Right. And a crazy woman is standing next to them going, "For a penny, I'll tell you how to avoid all of this. If Christ is coming, you're not going to be able to avoid it. What could you... Well, I suppose you'd pay the penny. You're screwed either way, aren't you? Insurance.
Just in case,
oh
yeah.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Go for it. I mean, but what's brilliant, I mean, she went all in for this. She took an egg, and in vinegar, she would write "Christ is coming," but in vinegar, because then the vinegar sort of etched it into the egg, rather than just like with a pen or paint or something.
That would be obvious, wouldn't it?
Then she would take said egg and said chicken, insert the egg back into the chicken.
No, and there was a video link, and Nick has just done a gesture, which is upsetting.
And then the chicken would lay a magical egg, etched with "Christ is coming." I mean, one must assume the chicken was not too happy about this.
Screaming. But we can hear the call of the magical hen.
I just don't know how that would be possible.
I don't think that is possible. Well, yeah, it's how it's not possible.
I don't know.
Try shoving anything that has come out of a thing back in it in that way. It ain't gonna happen. Poultry farmers out there, prove us wrong. Have you ever... I don't know why you would ever try to put an egg back up a chicken if you're raising it. It is not conducive to the profits you're trying to make. Oh, gee. So she had a chicken and she was forcing eggs up it. And then the chicken, traumatised, was laying eggs.
The doom-laden eggs.
Christ is coming. Imagine if she can spell as well. This is just gobbledygook. We don't know what she's saying. Chris is coming. Who's Chris?
Chris. So you will not forget the Prophet Hen of Leeds anytime soon.
I will never forget the Prophet Hen of Leeds. Carry on.
It made me laugh when I found that. I was like, this is bloody brilliant.
Why are you doing this story?
There's not a huge amount of pointing, but it's brilliant.
There is a Prophet Hen. Screw it. Second series of this podcast will be all about prophet animals that are used for nefarious deeds. So after the hen. So the following year, we're looking at 1806 now, Mary's reputation has reached the home of William and Rebecca Pergio. Rebecca was a very sickly woman. She had complained of a flutter of her heart, and she had been to the local doctor to find out what was causing this and how it could be resolved. The doctor had claimed this was beyond his abilities to deal with. An evil wish had been put upon Rebecca, and the only way to sort this out is sorcery. Doctors.
Doctors. So are you talking quack?
Doctor in inverted commas. Went to a
crazy man in a hedge.
Just leaning out of it. Hello, you're my 3 o'clock.
Pretty much, yeah. So the only way to sort this out is sorcery.
Of course.
To get rid of this evil curse that has been placed upon Rebecca. So where do they turn?
Is it to the hen?
It's not to the hen. Turn to Mary. Rebecca has a niece who goes to Mary and explains the situation. Says, "This is happening with my aunt. She's really unwell. Can you help?" Mary says, "Yes, absolutely. I'm sure there's something we can do. There might be a bit of money. But if if you provide me with an article of clothing from Rebecca, something that had been in contact with her skin, then she will send it to Miss Blythe, and Miss Blythe will come back with a remedy. So William straight away goes, yes, absolutely. This is my wife's flannel petticoat. Take this, send it to Miss Blythe, and we will do what she recommends. Miss Blythe comes back pretty much within the next few days. So William is given a letter, supposedly from Miss Blythe, and in it is contained the instruction that Mary is to go to the Pergio's house and take with her 4 guinea notes that Miss Blythe has supplied within this letter that have been magically enchanted. These notes have been magically enchanted to help Rebecca. These notes are to be sewn into the 4 corners of the mattress and left there for 2 years, and that will help alleviate the symptoms and remove the evil curse. And Mary should be recompensed for these 4 guinea notes that Miss Blythe has supplied, so William should just give her 4 guineas to replace the 4 guineas that Miss Blythe has magically enchanted. So the Perigeux, they agree. They say, yes, absolutely. Mary goes to the house and she makes a great show of stitching these 4 notes into little silk bags, which are then in turn stitched into the mattress. And of course, Mary has pocketed these notes, and they're filled with newspaper. So she's got her original 4 guineas in her pocket. The Perigeux have got a mattress filled with 4 corners of newspaper, and William hands over the 4 guineas in exchange for the 4 guineas that are supposedly in the mattress.
I mean, how do you justify to the people that it was magic money that was needed? Surely, I mean, it's a brilliant scheme if people are going to buy it. Yeah, money and then exchange it, do the old, slipperoo. Surely it would be something more pagan-y. Why was no one questioning this?
I mean, say I hate to use the word stupid.
But
the Perigeux were incredibly gullible. They fell for stuff that even then you believe stuff. Science wasn't a thing; it was magic. But even for people of that era, I think they were particularly naive. Potentially. I mean, about a fortnight later, William receives another letter from Miss Blythe recommending that 2 horseshoes should be nailed near the bed.
Oh yes,
but not using a hammer. They should use pincers, which are like a pliers, blacksmith tools used to make them. But they should use those to bang in the horseshoe, and then those pincers should be supplied sent to Miss Blythe. For whatever reason, Mary needs a new set of pincers.
With pincers?
Elaborate.
That's ridiculous.
Does it make it seem more mystical? I know you can't use a hammer. You have to use the pincers that were used to make the horseshoe.
There is a bit of folklore about that. Obviously, horseshoes everyone knows about. Horseshoes above the door. Horseshoes must be upright, never inverted, and things. And there is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there is something about a blacksmith's using blacksmith's tools or blacksmith's particular nails that came from them had something to do with the horseshoe and some sort of luck and pagan. It's as vague as that. It's as vague as that. So, whatever it is.
There was something there that the Perigeux thought, yes, that seems like a reasonable request. I'll do that, and the pincers get sent off to Mary. I mean, during the research for this, there are so many letters, and you've actually got full transcripts of the letters, and they are brilliant in their audacity that this woman has. So I'm going to go through a couple. By no means I can't go through all of them. There just isn't the time. But one of them, which is brilliant, is that my dear friend, says Miss Blythe, you must go down to Mary Bateman's at Leeds on Tuesday next and carry 2 guinea notes with you and give her them.
Sure.
She will then give you the other 2 that I have sent her from Scarborough. And you must buy me a small cheese. About 6 or 8 pound weight. And it must be of your buying, for it is for a particular use. And it is to be carried down to Mary Bateman's, and she will send it to me by the coach. This letter is to be burned when you have done reading it. So she had a fancying for some cheese.
Is this from you?
It could have been. It could well have been from me.
She just wanted some cheese. And the cheese had to be sent by coach as well, not just by a boy.
And there's another one. There's the second. I won't do any more than this one.
Go.
My dear friends, I will be obliged to you if you will let me have 6 of your china, 3 silver spoons, ½ a pound of tea, 2 pounds of loaf sugar, and a tea canister to put the tea in, or else it will not do. I durst not drink out of my own china. You must burn this with a candle. So
she's just doing her weekly shop through these people.
It is.
I need some tea and some china and some cheese to go with it. I love it. This letter must be destroyed.
It must be burned with a candle.
It wasn't, though. They didn't, clearly.
Well, no, apparently not. And there are loads of these. There's...
Oh, I want to hear more. Maybe bonus episode someday. Let's read all of her shitty letters. just as ridiculous as the next. There's the last one. Is that in one she asks for a camp bed and bedding, but helpfully she states they don't need to buy the best feathers. Common feathers will do. Oh, to live in an age when you can specify the feathers that you want.
Absolutely. But don't worry about the best ones.
Not the best ones. So whatever little money you have.
That'll be taken advantage.
Whatever feathers are about your person.
I mean, with every exchange of goods, Mary arrives with more and more charms and packets that should be sewn into clothing and placed around the house, always with the strict instruction that they should never be opened. I mean, by this point, the mattress must be about 4 foot in the air by now, the amount of crap that's underneath it. But then
it's the theatricality of it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The element of theatre behind any of these stories. As long as you can sell it and the conviction, you can say the most crazy things, but you can sell it with conviction.
Yep.
People will buy it if they want to believe it.
Yeah. I mean, one day a much more chilling letter arrives from Miss Blythe. My dear friends, I am sorry to tell you, you will take an illness in the month of May next.
Shit.
Either one or both, but I think both. But the works of God must have its course. But luckily, Miss Blythe can help. Mary supplies them with special magic powders that are to be sprinkled into a pudding and mixed in with a special pot of magic honey that she has provided.
Oh, magic honey.
Magic
We get
honey.
our secret ingredient. Magic. She sends the magic honey.
She sends them magic honey.
Magic what the hell is wrong
powders.
with these people? You're going to die next month unless you take these powders and this magic honey the slight time before the time I said you would get ill. Oh, for God's sake.
They are warned that on no account must anyone else sample the magical food.
Of course not.
Nor must they consult with a doctor, as this would only make the supernatural illness worse. I mean, we have the incredibly obedient and simple. At this point, they are lambs to a slaughter.
Absolutely.
In 1807, Rebecca dies. But thankfully, William survives. He is desperately ill. He gets through it. He pulls through. But he is bereft and obviously heartbroken about his wife. And for a further 2 years, he relies on Miss Blythe's potions and predictions to ease him through his loss. She even asks for him to send her his wife's old clothes. I mean, all to help him, of course. I mean, it just shows what a truly vile woman this is.
God, just preying on the needy, isn't it?
Completely. I mean, finally, his faith in Miss Blythe begins to waver, and he starts to unpick the stitches on the silk purses and packages that have been sewn into the beds and into clothing, and inside he finds waste paper, scrap metal, stones, and at long last he realises that he has been completely duped.
Yes, only after several years.
And over £100.
Oh God!
Which is a terrifying amount of money in
thousands of pounds.
Thousands of pounds in modern money. Yeah, tens of thousands probably, but huge amounts of money that has been squandered by Miss Blythe. But thankfully, at long last, he is become aware of what's happened. He confronts Mary, but she replies that he must have opened the bags too soon. They were magical after all, and all the wondrous things that they were contained within would have turned to rubbish because he didn't believe strongly enough that they were with the power they had.
Of course, you can just say, well, it's your fault.
I mean, but finally the scales have lifted and he sees it what it truly is. He doesn't fall for it. He's having none of it. I mean, he returns the next morning with the Constable Driffield. He's told Driffield of what's been happening over the past years, how much money he has and possessions he's given to Mary Bateman to give to Miss Blythe. Driffield searches the house and finds many of the gifts and things that were meant to be passed on to Miss Blythe are sitting there in Mary's living room and in Mary's wardrobe. And,
of course.
And at this time, even Mary's flair and her gift of the gab just couldn't talk away out of it. At long last, she's been uncovered. Mary's trial for the murder of Rebecca Persia opens at York Castle on the 17th of March, 1809.
Good venue.
Yeah, York Castle. But she sticks stubbornly to one defence. Deny everything.
Of course.
None of it ever happened. She provides a written statement where she denies the lot. And apart from that, she says nothing, except to proclaim her innocence. The whole packet, the local newspaper, reports that Mary looks very plausible and very unlike someone hiding poison in her potions.
What?
Which I think it was so bizarre.
She doesn't really... Are they literally going... She doesn't really look like a poisoner. She doesn't look evil. Oh, she looks lovely. In the kind of, what is it, the Ted Bundy logic of like, oh no, he's so handsome, he couldn't possibly have killed all this people. What's
interesting is, though, it's not that they're bothered about... She just doesn't look like someone who would make potions. Making potions, but that's fine. It's that she doesn't look like someone who would put poison in them.
No, she doesn't look like a murderer.
Yeah. So, but making potions...
Well, what does that murderer bloody look like?
I mean...
They've got another... They cart out another witch next to her going, this old crone, she looks like one. She doesn't look like that, but she fits the M.O. She doesn't have the hump.
Yeah, I mean, she was said to have seemed sedate and respectable.
Oh, she's clever.
But despite having a tongue in her head that would wheedle the devil.
Oh, that's a great line.
So wheedle being a old-timey word for beguiling, charming. She could get away with what she wanted. I mean, witnesses started to come forward from across Yorkshire to tell of the extortions and fraud at the hands of Mary Bateman. It soon became clear that this was so much bigger than the murder of Rebecca Pergio. It was so much bigger than anyone had realised it. I mean, as I said before, there are so many examples of her horrible scams, but there are so many people who are left penniless and homeless thanks to her scams. I mean, the unexpected death of the Kitchens 6 years earlier, obviously that resurfaced and came into question again. And one thing became obviously clear to everyone. Miss Blythe and Miss Moore did not exist.
What?
Which I know surprises you. But it was literally, this was the point where people realised that these were fictitious characters. Until this, they thought they were legitimate women who were living elsewhere and communicating with Mary. Yeah, it's only now that it comes out that they are entirely made up. A doctor analyses the remains of the Perigeux's honey, and inside they find a corrosive supplement of mercury.
Mercury? Ooh, so, bloody hell, woman.
That's one I don't think we've covered so far.
No, mercury! Mercury! Ah! What, do we need an alarm or something for mercury? Mercury... what rhymes with mercury? Or begins with an M?
What's
mercury... A mercury... Mew.
Okay, yeah, let's go with that.
Okay, fuck it.
I mean, yeah, as I say, I don't think we haven't covered mercury. Well, this is mercury sublimate, so it's a compound of mercury, mercury chloride or mercuric chloride. It was known. It's a white sort of crystalline powder, and it's relatively common in a lab. It was once used as a cure for syphilis.
Yes.
Until it fell out of favour because it was more deadly than the syphilis.
Exactly.
So they decided to stop using it. I mean, it is self-dangerous, not just because of the mercury aspect of it, but because it is incredibly corrosive. Yeah. So as you would swallow it would burn all your internal organs. It would accumulate in the kidneys and build up, and then eventually cause kidney failure and death.
Mercury, very dangerous.
Yes, and then another thing they found in Mary's possession was a bottle that contained a mixture of rum, oatmeal, and arsenic, which is not a great cocktail, I'm thinking.
Maybe we should try to recreate that without the arsenic.
So that's another vial of poison that she had been perhaps using on another unsuspecting scam that we don't know about. I mean, the jury quickly come back with a guilty verdict. The judge declares to Mary, "For crimes like yours, in this world, the gates of mercy are closed." They had such a way with language back then. Which is brilliant. Mary is sentenced to death by hanging. Mary is now in the courtroom in a major panic and claims that she's pregnant.
Of course, pregnant.
I'm pregnant. You can't
do.
Execute me. At this point, there's actually reports of the ladies in the courtroom make a dash for the door. All the ladies in the courtroom leg it because they know that they're in the courtroom. They can be called upon to examine Mary to ascertain if she is pregnant. And these are women. Some of them are witnesses. Some of them are just like, "Oh, I've got nothing better to do. I'll go and see what's going down the courthouse."
There's sudden a rush. She's pregnant. Everyone's like, run!
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
Oh God! But I don't want to touch it.
But the judge orders the doors to be barred of the courtroom, and 12 women are sworn in as matrons, and they are given a separate room where they are instructed to go to take Mary and examine her to ascertain if she is in fact pregnant. Of course, none of these are medical women.
No, it's what happened with Christiana Edmonds. Christiana Edmonds, when she shouted she was pregnant, they did get a bunch of women just to go through and all aspect. No, she's not. No, she's not. She's definitely not.
Of course, heaven forbid they thought about getting a doctor in.
I don't think they should get any doctors in ever at that sort of time. The doctor would come and go, she's pregnant by sorcery. We need to put a duck in here somehow.
No gentleman would want to go rummaging around there at all.
Oh, God, Nick.
So,
it's the gentle art of medicine that you think. You go rummaging around down there. How big do you think it is?
I don't know.
You don't want to think about it.
I don't know.
No.
But unsurprisingly, the women come back from their deliberations and say, no, another lie from Mary. She is, of course, not pregnant. The execution would continue. On the 20th of March 1809, so only 3 or 4 days after the trial, Mary is led to the gallows in front of York Castle. Thousands have gathered to watch. Many expect her to use her supernatural powers. As the hangman pulls the lever for the trapdoor to go, they expect her to disappear or to escape as vapours into the ether. Of course, that doesn't happen. They were very disappointed. She drops, she dies. No miraculous escape for Mary Bateman.
She is but flesh after all.
She is but flesh and blood after all. Her corpse is then returned to Leeds, where 2,500 people had already paid 3p each to view her corpse when it returned. It was quite the festival. There were jugglers there entertaining the crowds. The inns were doing a roaring trade. While they were waiting for the hearse to come from York with the body. At midnight, the hearse finally arrives.
The witching hour.
So they've been there all day. They're probably pissed out of their heads by now.
Sounds like a great party.
Sounds like a great party. And all the Gawkers sort of file past, get a final view of the Yorkshire Witch.
That's incredible.
Her body is taken to Leeds Hospital, where it is dissected and examined by medical students. Gets even more gruesome from now on. Her corpse is skinned. The skin is tanned and made into leather. The leather binds medical textbooks.
No.
Yep.
Oh, that's...
Her skin, one of which, I think it was George the VI, is said to have owned one of these books.
I've heard of that. We've all heard of that in the folky stories and the witchy stories about, books of spells or anything being bound in the skin of witches or of dead man's skin. But used as medical books? What the hell?
Medical texts.
Medical texts. No. What?
Leftover bits of skin are sold to collectors as ghoulish souvenirs. So we can't use this bit, this foot. We can't make a book out of that. So cut it into little 2-inch squares or whatever. Like
when we go shopping for remnants and that kind of thing. Oh, we can make a pocket square out of this and stuff.
It's in a way, yes. I've not considered like that, and that's somewhat disturbing. And then, her skeleton is preserved, and it's displayed at Leeds Medical School, where it remains to this day, as a reminder of one of the most cunning murderers that the area has ever seen. And that is the story of Mary Bateman, the Yorkshire Witch.
Wow. Great story, Nick. What a story! Again, like you, flabbergasted I'd never heard that story.
Now, I'd heard so many elements of it, because I knew, there was a woman who had been hung.
Yes.
And her skin had been used for a book, and I'd heard that story somewhere before, but I'd never
read
put all the different pieces together.
All of her story behind it, yeah. No, that's a fantastic story. It's that had everything. That had witches, that had poisoning. I am here for it. When I was listening to it, there were several points where I was kind of feeling a bit... That sort of rings a bell with some modern stuff. The con artistry behind psychics and witchcraft and so forth. Now, this is not me saying that all witchcraft or anything like that is hokum.
No, not at all.
We're believers in, the pagan arts and the pagan ways. But there's so many things in there about her being just very bright about selling these stories to very gullible people, setting up her own practice and saying, oh, well, you'll come and have a consultancy with me and there's a much bigger psychic down the road. That happens now. Where you've got, yes. Which we won't name, you've got big name psychics a few years ago and even now where people are calling the hotline to speak to them and they get spoken to one of their minions rather than the actual big person, but they'll feed it back to that person. That happens and people are paying a premium.
Yes, that is the case. Obviously we look at this with a modern scientific eye, and so you can go, how the hell did you believe that in the first in the first place? How did the woman get away with what we would probably consider, very ingenious but not subtle activities in the mind of the time, where absolutely this stuff, the folklore and the fortune telling and the potions and the charms and things, these were not make-believe. These were as real to them as science is to us now.
But I think it still happens now, and I think if you look at any of the
for sure.
of the big name psychics, it's the same sort of principle, is that people believe what they want to believe. And you have people out there, people selling stadium shows, people doing, they've got their websites, they've got their books, they've got their tapes and everything like that, where they are being as theatrical, saying as ludicrous stuff up on stage, telling people, I can channel this dead person, I can speak to those people, and the people in the audience absolutely believe it. I've been to a friend asked me to go to a psychic stage show, one of these big name people, where they were going to stand on stage and channel the spirits, and I went and I sat in quite a large venue, and this venue was packed. People around me were 100%, not only were they there for this person, ready to believe anything that he said, but if you showed the tiniest bit of skepticism, they turned on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people are just vehemently ready, and you're sitting there going, you're not being mean, you're not shouting at anything, but saying, this is just all conjecture, this is all just circumstance, this is someone spinning you a yarn. But the people in that audience were ready to go, you're an unbeliever, you need to get out, you need to get out.
Yeah, if you're willing to believe, then you will believe, no matter what the evidence is presented to you. If you want to believe, you'll believe.
Yeah, that's what's clearly happened with her.
Which has clearly happened with her, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the interesting things. I know we covered it vaguely. I spoke about it vaguely when we did the Patreon episode with real life ghost stories. Is that, do I believe in supernatural and stuff like that? And it's like, sometimes I wish I did.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I had that belief. I could remove myself and actually have that belief, that unshakable faith in stuff like that. It must be incredibly comforting to people, especially when things are not understood and not known. It must be incredibly a comforting thing. But then you have people who just take advantage of people's hope.
It's a bigger philosophical conversation, I'm sure, but it's the same thing about whether you believe in the spiritual side of stuff, whether you're looking at witchcraft or folklore, the pagan arts, or just modern day religion, and you have that sort of quiet peace about you, that's lovely and good on you.
Absolutely.
And if you have faith in anything, if you're not hurting anyone, then fine, go ahead with it.
Go for it.
But there are so many people who will exploit it and who will take your money and who will use it for their own personal gain and for their own megalomania. And everything that she did in the story, I don't think there's anything in there that you probably couldn't find someone today doing a very close equivalent of.
I'm sure not. I
think you could find that, and it would be far more people than you could ever think about.
Yeah.
The family, I wouldn't call the Peugeot family, but
Yep.
But that family who just believed her and kept giving money, it had kind of echoes of Rasputin as well, because obviously Rasputin,
it does, yes,
who served the Romanovs,
just that complete blind faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were just, he looked the part, he talked the talk.
Yeah. He
was able to come up and give some faux bullshit answer to why their son, who had haemophilia, was dying and suffering, and the Tsarina completely had faith in him, and he was just spinning a yarn. But this carried on for ages, and Rasputin was just a complete con artist, and then died, and we will cover him in another story.
Yes, indeed. Poison involved there too.
It's eerie. Oh, what lessons have we learned? None.
In the 300 years since then to now, it's made bugger all difference.
Evil woman.
Incredibly clever.
Absolutely.
Incredibly, and not a single redeeming feature that I can find.
God, no.
At all.
Well, I suppose you can go and visit York, go to the castle and see where she was tried, go to Leeds, and have a walk. Can you see a skeleton? Can you see it publicly?
I think it's currently in storage now, unfortunately, so I don't think... Well, the last thing I read, which is an article from about 5 or 6 years ago, so it may have changed since then, but it was being held in storage, so you couldn't go and publicly see it.
I wonder what happened to the books as well.
That's a very good point,
actually.
Books
of skin.
I've just Googled it. I'm not going to read the whole thing now, but it's out there. That information is out there. About...
Go find it. Go find the skin books. So what are your thoughts on the story? What are your thoughts on witchcraft or people like this, people who are exploiting witchcraft? But as ever, come and have a chat with us on social media. Our social media handles are at The Poisonous Cabinet, on Twitter, at The Poisonous Cap. And if you've enjoyed the episode, please, as ever, leave us a nice review on Apple iTunes. That's the one that gets all the ratings. Or wherever you listen to your podcasts, please rate, review. The main thing right now, though, is to share. Share with your friends, tell your friends about it, get a few more people listening to us and to any other podcast that you listen to.
And enjoy, I would heartily recommend, try a bee's knees. Easy to make, stuff you have in the cupboard generally. Yeah, honey, lemon, orange, gin. The recipe will be on social this evening. Make one. It's well worth it.
And share your pictures, share your videos. Just share everything with clothes on, obviously. So as ever, we have been the people inside the Poisoner's Cabinet. We will see you next week. And remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.
Bye.